Let me just start this video off by saying this. This was not how this recording was supposed to be. This was originally going to be a regular gameplay video cut down into a respectable 20 minutes. However, OBS decided it wasn't going to end up being that way, and it didn't record my microphone at all. So instead, I'm going to give my unwanted opinion on Another Crab's Treasure, as well as some of the story information from the start of the game. Because I didn't get too far within the 2 hours I recorded. So, I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into my opinion. Alright, so I'm going to try to give my opinions here on how the game is introduced. So you're introduced to this weird pole shark character known as the Loan Shark. He is a tax collector for a character known as the Duchess. And he wakes up your character known as Krill and is trying to collect taxes. And your character has absolutely no clue what taxes are. He has no clue who the Duchess is. He's just been trying to live his life peacefully on a beach. So when this loan shark comes up and is basically demanding he pays taxes or he loses his show, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll pay your taxes because, he's like, oh, I don't want to lose my home. So he goes and picks up these things called heart kelp, which in this game, or if you've ever played Dark Souls, are essentially your Estus flask, your healing items. So you'll be using them quite a bit. You'll be refilling them. It is one of the main aspects of the game. It's something they just want to introduce you to early on in the game. So you'll get used to seeing stuff like that. It's kind of a good thing, but it just seems like your character's kind of a pushover from the very beginning. So even though your character tries to pay his taxes, which he has no clue still what they really are, he learns that you're supposed to pay with microplastics, which I think is kind of a funny way to pay taxes in an underwater game. But the loan shark, of course, refuses to take his heart kelp because that's not what the Duchess wants. So he takes us home. He tries to get his shell back by chasing him down, and of course, ends up going out into the deep ocean where he will have to encounter some more actual enemies to deal with. So, one of the first things your character will run into is another crab, which your character, naively decides, hey, let's talk to him. Let's think, hey, we should all be friends. And, well, they're not your friends. They're, brainwashed, basically, by the Duchess, because they want to get their microplastics so they can survive and everything. So they basically just start attacking you, and your crab's like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? So he just keeps running forward and, tries to live and everything. So you just run through this section, which is kind of like an introduction. Hey, you're going to get your butt kicked if you're not careful what's going on. And then I think not far up in this section, you'll actually, you'll go up and a little further here and you get your weapon and it'll teach you how about combat. Alright, and it's at this point of the game in which that I start to have a little bit of gripes. Because, yes, you get some combat stuff, which is great and everything. And it will give you a tutorial about how to swing, your fork and everything. But what it doesn't tell you here, and that you kind of got to figure out yourself, is that the fork itself can be used to break environments. It's kind of obvious, and in this clip, I'm trying to find a way to bypass the bottles and just straight up skip this section of the map. But it doesn't tell you that you can break the glass bottles. So in this kind of game, I understand they don't like to give you too much information because it is kind of like a Dark Souls-like game. But they should tell you that you can destroy the environment. That's just a little gripe that I have. It ain't a big one, but it is a little bit of a gripe. So it's not too bad. Alright, so once you get out of basically the tutorial cave, you'll get out into the area called the Shallows here, which will start talking to this Snow and asking for directions, and he'll just start being straight up just a rude little Snow to you. And just like, yeah, well, it's probably the only castle in the area, and stop being a freeloader. Everyone's got to work and everything. And then once you get through the dialogue, he just straight up attacks you for no reason. And he's not like he's not a strong enemy whatsoever. You try to beat him up real quick and easy. And, but yeah, he's just a small little enemy. Just expect him. But he points out where the castle is, and then from there you just go up to the castle. It's not like a hard route or anything like that. So just like within Dark Souls, how you have the campfires, Another Crab's Treasure has these shells here that act just like the bonfires. And when I say just like them, I mean identical. You level up in here. If you go into them, they still have where you can fast travel later. Everything will respawn. They are literally just bonfires. So they're just good if you see them to activate them. So a little while up the road after you activate that shell, you'll get to the actual castle, and they will start questioning you basically just because you're naked. And they'll tell you, well, if you want to go talk to the Duchess, you need to have some type of clothes on. And they'll basically tell you, hey, if you want clothes, our captain will basically give you some clothes for free. Just go meet him. And they'll tell you exactly where he is. They'll say, hey, he's down there to the right. He should go and give you something to wear for free. So, from there, that's where you head. You head off that direction and try to get something to wear. But when you get 2 for 1 in a fight, you get your first death on the way to try to get your first piece of clothing. And just like in Dark Souls, when you die, you go back to your last bonfire, and in this case it'll be the seashell spot. And of course, luckily for me, it's not that far away. You run back, you'll get your stuff. It's just in Dark Souls, it'll just be in the same place you died. So just grab it and hope you don't die when you're trying to get it, because you will lose all of your microplastics. Okay, I guess I didn't learn my lesson from fighting the 2 guys without any armor. I went for the big guy with the glowy eyes. Yeah, that didn't go too well. This guy is a absolute just beast and does so much damage. He just launches you to space when you die, so it probably wasn't a good idea for me to fight him. So yeah, that was just a fun little fight that I wanted to include. Alright, and here's where the fun begins. The giant vending machine will shoot at you all kinds of pop cans, which, I wasn't expecting, but that apparently was the clothing that you're supposed to go get, which I thought, oh, where's the captain? It was kind of weird for me that, you get the clothing without seeing the captain. And then this happened. Nephro. Yeah, this guy right here is a pain. Just the biggest pain. But, I thought, maybe we'll talk this out, My character loves to talk. But it doesn't work that way in this cutscene. He doesn't listen. For someone who was supposed to be someone who was giving, stuff to people, he doesn't listen. And you start your first boss fight with someone who is supposed to be a giving type of person. So, how did this boss fight go? Let's just watch. This is my first attempt at a boss fight in another Crab's Treasure. Yeah, it went about that well. It didn't go well. But you can respawn, and I didn't know what that meant, so I hit yes. And it turns out that you spawn literally right at the boss fight. And I want to show you my biggest gripe that I have with another Crab's Treasure. Okay? And I mean, it is an annoyance, and there needs to be an option for it, and I checked. Later on in the actual thing, I checked for a setting for this. But you put your cam back on, you start walking out, and there is a way to skip it, but it starts to cutscene every single time. So, yeah. So I'm going to try to just fast forward through some of these, but I'm going to try to show you at least bits and pieces of every time I fight him, because, spoiler alert, I don't win on the second attempt. Yeah, that took me 15 minutes, which was not as bad as I thought it originally would be, but that was 15 minutes of me actually raging, and your character is great. He's like, that was self-defense, anyone would agree, and I was sitting there freaking out, because I'm just like, well, was he supposed to accompany me back to the place? And no, he wasn't. And when you get back there, the guards, they'll just let you in. You walk up, and then people gripe that, like, hey, you're cutting the line, and you go talk to the Duchess. So I'll cut to the Duchess. So the Duchess, for what you've been led to believe, is actually not as bad of a person as you would think. Yes, she basically stole your house because you owe taxes, but she actually is just trying to make her palace beautiful and everything like that. And she does offer you a way to get your house back, at least slightly, which is to go on a quest and bring her something shiny and help her people, I guess, which is kind of nice. So she basically lets you join her people and tells you, hey, go do this and I will give you your house back. So after she tells you that, you'll go over here, talk to this guy, and then after you talk to him, you'll go into the room across from him, and you'll knock down this house of cards here, and you'll end up getting the fishing line, which acts as a grappling hook, and you'll be able to move on to the next section of the map. So the next section of the maps is the Moon Caves, which, funny enough, you get to talk to the Moon Snail, which teaches you some umame training for shell spells, which are basically just special attacks that you have to charge up, and they do different things depending on which different shell you have. This area itself is not too awful and, entertaining, so there's only like one or two things before the boss fight that I'll actually show you. Alright, so basically the only thing in this area that's really worth showing is that I found this thing called Heart Kelp Sprout, which lets you hold another Heart Kelp pod, so that I will end up being able to restore more health over time. So instead of being able to hold 3, I'll be able to hold 4, which was kind of nice. So yeah, that boss only took about 10 minutes to actually end up beating. It wasn't too awful bad, and you actually get the Pristine Pearl, which was what the Duchess was wanting from this area, which I thought we'd encounter some other, like people from her army or something, but nope, that's all you get. So that was kind of neat. But when we actually look further on in here, you'll see that you'll find the Moon Snail's actual home. So I'll explain a little bit what happens in here. So you'll see these crystals. I've been breaking these this entire time, not having a clue what they actually do. I've got 35 of those right there, and I'll get a little bit more right here. I think it puts me up to 37 or 38, and I look for a little bit more. But when you talk to her, she'll end up telling you basically, hey, I see you got all these crystals. Why don't you upgrade your abilities? And she unlocks a skill tree for you, which, amazing. You get skill trees in this game too. Hooray. But it's actually very useful and it's actually really nice. So you'll get a skill tree. There's 3 different paths you can take off of it. And the first one's cheap and then they skyrocket. So yeah, it's kind of nice. But the first thing you have to buy is Teleportation. This is where you basically unlock fast travel, which is nice because after this, you gotta go back and give this pearl to the Duchess. So let's cut back when we're actually teleporting. I end up buying the first thing of everything basically, which is that you can parry, you can do a charge attack, and I don't even remember what the third thing is because I don't actually use it at all. So I don't know. But let's see what is going on when we get back that direction. Alright, so once you teleport back to the Shallows, you'll immediately start noticing when you start walking towards the castle that things are not the same as they were. When you get to the castle, you'll start noticing that the comb and everything is like that, and I immediately get distracted because, you know, something blue, because blue is always like something that'll help power you up and stuff like that. But you'll notice that the water started turning grayish, and that'll become more apparent in a second when I cut to the next clip. Alright, so when you get up towards the castle, you'll see one of the guards that were standing there, and he starts basically having a just mental breakdown about how he wasted his whole life and everything like that. And you'll notice his eyes are glowing, which is usually a sign that he is going to basically be just evil. And he just starts attacking you. So I used all my bubbles and everything like that, and yeah, he's basically the first boss, but with a lot less health. So it wasn't too bad, but he gives you some of those glowing crystals, and then you gotta find the way to infiltrate the castle. So as you're going, you'll end up finding a bunch of enemies. You'll find like cool little shells and stuff like this. They found a coconut shell, which honestly, I should have ended up going back and getting at one point because it is a really good shell. It's good defense. It's actually really powerful with its special attack. It's really nice, but you'll be going through the castle and everything. You'll see all kinds of like familiar faces, like that guy. He was just admiring the artwork and stuff earlier in the game. I ended up taking the can because the coconut took damage. I tried opening the door from that side. Of course, you know, it ain't gonna take. I noticed a fishing rod up there, which is basically a shortcut to get up. So I'm like, well, I gotta get over there. So we kept going, and I'm gonna cut when we get actually into the building now. Alright, so once you're in the building, I thought she was dead originally, but it turns out she just lost her mind, and like everyone else, she thinks she's not beautiful and everything else isn't beautiful, so she ends up being a boss fight. So it ends up being like this. We'll end up watching the first boss encounter I have. I had no shell right at the beginning, so it wasn't ending up starting too good, and she is really aggro, like trying to get into melee range, but she has such a long range attack like that, and she can just basically one-shot you. So I'm going to speed up this, and we'll get to the one at the end of it, in which that I end up beating this encounter. after a clutch win, after 30 minutes, I ended up unlocking the Royal Wave ability, which I never used yet, so I don't know how good it is. But that was a very long fought battle, and after everything, the Loan Shark appears, not helping, still has your house in his mouth, and after everything, still refuses to give it back to you. And this time now, he's like, oh yeah, instead of giving it back to you, I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to go and sell it to the highest bidder in the big city for a few pieces of microplastic. So, yeah, instead of, setting up like a main story, it set up like kind of like a pre-story to kind of get you used to combat and everything. So now, we got to go and do the next part of the story. So that was kind of nice. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you guys in the next one, which I hope my microphone ends up working on. So I hope you guys have a great day, and bye, guys.